Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Goodman, the Acting Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs here at UMass Dartmouth. I'm also a Professor of Public Policy, and it's my great pleasure this morning on behalf of our Chancellor, Mark Fuller, to welcome you to this exciting event where we're going to get a real-time update on the status of the South Coast Rail Project, something that we here on the South Coast have been waiting for some time now and have been watching with great expectations as the project has unfolded and gotten closer and closer to becoming a true reality. We've got an exciting program for you today. We're going to hear from our colleagues from the Department of Transportation. And so even though I'm trained to go on and on, I'm going to keep it brief. We're doing this event this morning in partnership with our dear friends and close collaborators from the Bristol Community College. And so to keep the event moving, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jennifer Menard. I'm sure everyone on this in this session knows who Jennifer is, but in case you don't, she's the Vice President of Economic and Business Development at the Bristol Community College, where she oversees a wide range of programs, including corporate training, career and technical training programs, professional development, grant development, adult education, and in her spare time, the National Offshore Wind Institute, or what we've come to know as the NOWI. Jen is also a distinguished alumnus of the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, and she formerly led the South Coast Development Partnership here for 14 years, and in that role was very much focused on helping to make this commuter rail project and regional collaboration here in southeastern Massachusetts a reality. And if I'm not mistaken, Jen, I think you may have also done your master's thesis on this particular project. I'll let you tell them when that was. But anyway, it's really always exciting to work with Jennifer and Bristol and on this kind of timely and important regional economic development opportunity. So with that, I'm going to take a step back and turn it over to Vice President Menard.
Well, thank you so much, Michael Goodman. The relationship and all of the friends in this room, we work so closely together, and this is one of those projects that we've all been really working together for so long. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Representative Strauss. Chairman Strauss, as all of us know, this has been one of his main priorities for so long. He's represented the 10th Bristol District since 1992. And does serve as the chairperson on the Joint Committee for Transportation, as well as the Special Joint Committee on Redistricting. He's been so extensively involved in transportation issues, but has demonstrated his leadership for our region and state for so long. For instance, being the original sponsor of the legislation that added the Port of New Bedford to the Steamship Authority system, now connecting New Bedford and Martha's Vineyard, as well as obviously a long-term advocate of this extension of the commuter rail. Representative Strauss has made sure increased funding has gone to the local improvements around road and bridges, as well as these critical transportation projects across the state. Representative Strauss, I just want to say one thing. I also noted on your bio that you were the original sponsor on the Do Not Call list, and I thank you for that. I know it's not transportation related, but just saw it on your bio. I wanted to say that, but thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce Representative Strauss.
Thank you, Jen. I really appreciate that, and Dr. Goodman. And I did know, Doctor, when you said that you're trained to go on and on. I only thought that was true of lawyers. We are trained to talk a lot, so I guess we're not the only ones. But I wanted to jump right into it. Thank the others that are participating in the panel today, particularly Jean Fox, who lives this every day. I only wanted to make 2 points after thanking both schools, BCC and UMass Dartmouth, for hosting this webinar today with the update provided by MassDOT on the South Coast Rail Project. The 2 points are: one, I am constantly asked by people locally, are they ever going to build that train? And whether in public comments or postings, or sharing the links to the regular updates that the project puts out there on the web, it's still amazing to me that people who probably drive through the construction sites themselves and get delayed. And certainly this has been true in the north end of New Bedford, and I'm sure over in Fall River and up towards Middleborough, don't realize how much work has been going on the last couple of years on this project. So yes, it's under construction. Yes, it's real. And I have to say that working in these kind of areas with projects like this over the years. This happens, frankly, because a governor says, make it happen. And so ultimately, while tons of people work on it locally, at the staff level, within the agencies, at the municipal level, we have had a governor the last 7 years who has truly committed to the project, not just said one more study, one more this, one more that. So that is always worth noting. The second thing I want to point out that people ask me about, particularly lately with the literally billions of dollars of federal infrastructure money coming as a result of a couple of congressional enactments and the active support of the Biden administration, people now ask me, oh, well, will that money get us South Coast Rail? And so one theme I wanted to leave today is there are many projects out there that need money and will look to this new federal funding for infrastructure. South Coast Rail is not one of them. South Coast Rail is fully funded. The money has been committed. There's nothing extra that people in the region or elsewhere in the state need to be concerned about in terms of getting us to riding those first trains on a morning in 2023, I think, out of New Bedford, out of Fall River to head north. The funding is there and people should feel comfortable. What that does do is it leaves in the South Coast region the opportunity to look at other significant projects that may be in need of funding. And I won't list any because I know everyone has the ones they think should be the highest priority. That said, I want to turn it back to the hosts and ultimately Gene Fox and thank the schools again for hosting this today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your leadership. I don't think what we're about to hear about would be possible without that. And for that, we are all grateful. I know we speak for all in attendance in that regard. Before I introduce our guests and we get into the meat of the program, I just want to say to those in attendance, if you have any questions throughout the program, because we will hopefully have a little time for Q&A and back and forth later after the presentation, please use the Q&A function that you should see at the bottom of the Zoom screen. That'll make it possible for our staff to help vet those questions and make sure that we get to as many of them as possible. And so now, without further ado, I want to begin by the program by introducing Gene Fox, the manager of the South Coast Rail Project and our dear friend. As manager of this project to bring commuter rail to service to Fall River, New Bedford, and Taunton, Gene's responsibilities include securing funding for construction and operation of the lines, shepherding the project through the environmental review and permitting process, and keeping the public fully engaged throughout the design phase, which she will do now. Gene, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Michael. I also want to echo Chairman Strauss's comments. We are very grateful the South Coast Rail team is for you and UMass Dartmouth and BCC to host this. We feel, you know, the chairman said it, people still ask, is this really happening? People are driving through active construction zones and not realizing that we're doing grade crossings and building bridges and putting down thousands of linear feet of track. A lot is going on, and I thought it was timely to update this group on where we are and where we're going. And with that, I'm going to ask Joe to upload the presentation so I can give you a few pointers. We have pretty pictures. Okay, thank you. I am going to give you a basic overview and a construction update. I wanted to get into some of the many project benefits that we anticipate coming out of this. I'll go through the community outreach piece and we can have some Q&A at the end. As was noted earlier, I did shepherd this project through all of the design and permitting at MassDOT. It is now an MBTA construction project, and we are going full tilt on this. We are on time, we are on budget, and as was noted, we are fully funded. The Fall River line is at almost 40% completion. That's our smaller contract, mind you. The larger one is the Middleborough, New Bedford and Signals contract, and that's close to 20% completion. And as I mentioned, thousands of linear feet of new track have been laid. So that's the new continuously welded rail as opposed to the jointed clickety-clack rail that the freight currently runs on. You can really see things coming to fruition in certain sites. So Fall River is a little bit ahead. So if you go to the Freetown station, which is on South Main and Assonet, or the depot at Pierce and Duval in Fall River, you really see the platforms coming. You see where the parking lot's going to be, footings and all the invisible stuff too, the drainage, all of that's in. We anticipate, and we're there, we're going to reach the midpoint of construction on this project in the spring of next year, which is just unbelievable. It's a wonderful thing. And again, we hope to have trains, we plan to have trains running by the end of 2023. So everybody get your ticket now. Next slide, please. So a lot of you have already seen this map, but let me just reiterate where we are. We are extending the Middleborough line down. Phase 1 is an extension of the existing Middleborough service that currently ends in Lakeville. We are adding a station in Middleborough. We're adding one in East Taunton, over by where the old golf course was in the Purple Dinosaur. And then we're heading down to Fall River and New Bedford. There's a station, the depot station in Fall River, and there's the station near the Whale's Tooth and the ferry service in New Bedford, as well as Church Street. There are 2 layovers, Weaver's Cove in Fall River and Wamsutta in New Bedford. And you can see by the map on the left that this is the piece, the southern triangle piece, that we are focused on at this time. That allows us to make this extension a reality. Next slide, please. So here's some renderings. The stations are basically platforms, canopies, and parking lots, with the exception of the East Taunton station. That is a center island platform, which means you've got tracks on both sides of it. So it's a little bit more of a complex structure, has to meet all kinds of ADA requirements. So it's going to have elevators and ramps. All of the others are side platforms, which means they only have track on one side. They're fully accessible. They have bike and ped access, and all of the stations will have benches and other amenities. We even were looking at solar trash receptacles, but that may or may not happen yet. The 2 layover facilities are very simple, 6 sets of tracks, a crew building, very secure area. And that's where the trains rest at night. That is, no maintenance takes place there at all. Next slide, please. So basically the overall scope. So for $159 million, we're getting the entire Fall River secondary line built. And that's 12 miles of track, 2 stations, the Weaver's Cove layover. It is also the one with all the bridges. It has 8 bridges and 10 grade crossings and 10 culverts. We've already done most of the grade crossings and a number of the culverts, and just did 3 bridges. On the Middleborough secondary, that was the one that was 403.5 million. That's double the amount of track miles, 4 stations, the layover in New Bedford, 18 grade crossings, 11 culverts, and the entire systems infrastructure for the entire corridor. So they're also going to be putting in our signal system, the positive train control, dispatch for the entire South Coast Rail project on that second contract. Next slide, please. So we're giving you a look ahead on each of these. The Fall River secondary line, some of the stuff isn't terribly sexy, but some of it's really exciting. So we are doing sheeting and retaining walls. We just, right now, we're in the middle of a fairly lengthy outage on the Fall River line, doing a lot of track replacement, as well as those 3 bridges I mentioned. We already did new track installation in Freetown, Richmond to Forge. New track installation going on at the golf club in Fall River on Golf Club Road. Culvert reconstruction, just did one at Farm Road South. And then of course the stations that I mentioned, and cable plowing to get ready for that systems infrastructure. So you can see on the little schematic, we have 3 of the bridges that we're doing in this outage: Farm Road South with Collins Street, which is really exciting. That one's coming on very nicely. I never thought I'd get so excited about bridges, but I really am. And then Ashley's Underpass, which was this tiny little pretend bridge, now is a real bridge. It looks really nice. And then the 2 station sites, you see the yellow dots. they're really coming along nicely. Next slide, please. So again, the larger contract is a little bit more, the Fall River's ahead of this one by a few months, but there's an awful lot going on right now. Certainly, if you've been by Church Street at all, you've noticed an awful lot of activity there, and they're going to be pulling out of Church Street pretty soon now and focus more heavily on the New Bedford station over by the ferry. Again, we're doing retaining walls and track reconstruction. The drill shaft operation sometimes can be noisy. Ballast mat installation, that really helps with noise and vibration. Slope and ditch excavation. Remember, parts of our right of way are very narrow and they need support. And we're doing a very comprehensive job of making sure that our infrastructure and integrity are in place. Drainage, huge on the right of way and in the stations, cable plowing again, and station construction in Middleborough is really moving along. You can't see as much yet, but in a very short time you will. All the drainage, a lot of the electrical connections, light poles, things like that are in. Rail and tie replacement we've been doing, grade crossings, a lot of them in Lakeville. They can be disruptive, but we do them overnight on outages so that they're quick and dirty and they're done. And then a lot of reconstruction and realigning tracks in Taunton, conduit installations going in right now, and then modified track construction on the Middleborough secondary, as well as layover utilities happening right now in New Bedford at Wamsutta at the layover. Next slide, please. So traffic mitigation, so there's off-site mitigation, and that's mostly intersection work. We have some in Fall River, we have some in Middleborough, and some in New Bedford. That's going out to bid in the early part of next year. So that's the last contractual piece we need to get out the door for South Coast Rail. And then we're working very hard with the city of New Bedford on the New Bedford bridge design, the PED bridge that will cross over from Purchase Street across 18 and Acushnet down to the station area. That collaboration has been very fruitful, and we feel we're definitely going in the right direction to keep that thing moving. Next slide, please. So what to know about construction? Basically, our hours are Monday through Friday, 7A to 7P. With the shorter daylight hours, sometimes those hours are curtailed depending on the task. But we also have track outages. I mentioned the one we're currently in. That means that we literally take the railroad track out of commission so we can get a lot of work done over a shorter period of time. And that's in complete collaboration with the current freight operator, Mass Coastal Railroad. So for example, a grade crossing can be done over a weekend, an extended weekend. You pull out the track, you fix the grade crossing, you put the track back in, you pave, you get it inspected by Mass Coastal, and things are good to go. It really saves time, and it saves on disruption for people who live around those grade crossings. We're also very vigilant on pest and rodent management and dust control. Obviously in construction, you can create a lot of dust. That can be not only annoying, but not terribly healthy. So we're monitoring that very carefully. We have very good data on it. And of course, all of our contractors and site personnel are complying with the health and safety regs regarding COVID-19. Next slide, please. So just to show you some progress, and obviously these pictures are a little dated because nothing's green, it's all white today, but the south of the station platform in Fall River, you can really see the platform coming together on the south and north views. That's actually advanced a little bit more from when these photos were taken. We were out there in early part of November, and it's just amazing. You can really see a station coming along nicely here. Next slide, Joe. And here we have Freetown Station. This is what you have to do with platforms is a lot more complex than just throwing down a piece of concrete and hoping it holds. There's an awful lot of work. You can see the rebar, you can see the sheeting that went in, the stem walls, and then the beginnings of what's going to be the Freetown Station platform coming on the right-hand side of the slide. Next slide. So we had a really exciting activity. The Assonet River Bridge in Lakeville combined traditional roll-in techniques with a very unique approach. It also was very helpful to the project to limit any kind of environmental footprint. We always have to watch out, for example, that we're we're in compliance with all time of year restrictions in waterways. And that was true here. We actually had the contractor assemble the bridge at an open site in Berkeley, about a quarter-mile north of the river. And then we lifted the entire bridge on heavy-duty rubber-tired transporters and moved it sideways above the track, demoed the old bridge, set in the new bridge, and reconnected the railroad. And we did it in 11 days. It's just amazing how this can happen. I'd like to show you a very quick video of that. Can we do that, Joe? Here it is. And the coup de grace, the train is running. So that was super exciting. So how will South Coast Rail serve this region? We have about a 90-minute ride, one seat, no transfers, from both Fall River and New Bedford to South Station in Boston. We anticipate 3 peak morning and evening trains and some afternoon service with longer headways. A revenue service, as we've said, is anticipated by the end of 2023. And how will South Coast Rail promote the region? Well, we've been talking about this for, as we said earlier, close to 30 years. We know, and we've seen it elsewhere. The construction jobs are great, but really it's the net new jobs we're also looking for. This is going to inspire development and settlement in our region. We expect it will boost and help the housing market. I've already had anecdotal evidence from both Fall River and New Bedford that there's an exciting housing market right now in the cities in anticipation of South Coast Rail. Some of them are retirees, people anticipating retirement, wanting to move here, but still wanting to get into Boston. We are absolutely improving our freight infrastructure. One of the things I'd like to point out that the more goods we can move on trains, the fewer trucks we have on our roadways. And that really helps with maintaining the integrity of our roadways and moving more goods very efficiently. And that's with the new rail, with the new grade crossings, freight that currently operates at 5 to 10 miles an hour will be able to move much faster, up to, I think, 35 or 40 miles an hour, which is phenomenal. Station area development potential, so TOD. A lot of you took advantage of the towns and cities took advantage earlier on of some technical assistance to help actually with smart growth development and did some zoning changes. You can do that and change your densities, promote mixed use commercial development. So TOD also offers financial incentives down the road. Lakeville took full advantage of that when the station went in there, and they will continue to do so. We anticipate significant savings in travel costs and accessibility to jobs, and definitely gains in business and labor productivity. The reverse commute to Southeastern Mass is also nice, that reciprocal arrangement. A lot of people that I've spoken to in Boston have no idea about how much we have down here in our region, what the resources and amenities are, the beaches, the cranberries. We have so much, and this will offer people an opportunity to come see what we have, take advantage of what we have, and potentially use it, be part of it, connect with us. We expect increased tourism. We want connections to tourism, education, and healthcare. Those will be enhanced. And again, technical assistance can help communities prepare for smart growth development. And also from an environmental perspective, South Coast Rail will take hundreds of cars off the road annually. One number that we pulled out, 280 cars or 30 buses seat the same number of riders in a 6-car commuter rail train, which is pretty amazing. Next slide. The freight, obviously, gateway cities with transit like Lowell, Fitchburg, and Worcester have higher rates of education and lower unemployment rates. And UMass Lowell has seen enrollments grow substantially. The city's downtown with its little cable cars and the repurposed mill buildings has become a convention destination. We certainly can anticipate similar results in our cities. Right-of-way improvements obviously support more efficient freight service, which I mentioned, and I think that will support our economies and definitely the push for wind power in our region. Next slide. So this was a great quote. To a state struggling with high housing prices, the gateway cities offer more reasonably priced middle-class housing. To a state concerned about sprawl and traffic congestion, gateway cities look like a natural place for pursuing smart growth, as they actually want to grow and are already served by roads, schools, and often rail links. And to a state facing anemic population growth and future worker shortages, the gateway cities hold out the possibilities of growing energetic and diverse immigrant and minority communities already contributing to the workforce and already seeking the American dream. And that's from Reconnecting the Massachusetts Gateway Cities. Mass Inc. did that. Next slide, please. So civic engagement, very, very important component of this project. We have regular community meetings, construction updates. We produce quarterly fact sheets, which are widely disseminated. We have good social media exposure. Some of you may have seen the recent video update we did. We're going to be doing those regularly. We have ongoing meetings with communities, neighborhoods, and advocates. We have a hotline in place for questions and concerns that arise during construction. That hotline operates during construction hours. Anything we don't get on that day, we answer the next day. And we have ongoing communication with all agency partners. DEP is clearly with us all the way. And then in spring 2022, we hope to reconvene with you with a solid focus on economic development. We see such potential here. We know you do as well. We just want to be partners with you as we figure out the way forward. Next slide, please. In community outreach, we have our website, we have our email. We get good traffic on both. The website is just loaded with all kinds of information. We do these traffic impacts in an e-blast. We'll actually put the detours and the traffic management plans in them and tell people exactly when, where, and how work is happening so that they can have not only advance notice, but very concise and timely information on what's going on. The hotline is 617-222-4099. Our weekly updates typically go out Tuesdays or Wednesdays. We have more than 4,500 subscribers, and every time I go somewhere, I encourage people to sign up. Not only do we do the e-blast, but in abutters, so say near a grade crossing or a bridge job that's going to go on over a several-day period, we flyer those areas, the residents in particular, but also some of the businesses, because it can be disruptive. We're aware of that. You can't build anything without causing some inconvenience, but we do try to at least give people advance notice to the best of our ability. Next slide, please. That's it. So I'll turn it over again to Dr. Goodman.
Thank you very much, Jean, for that informative and very encouraging presentation. I would say to those in attendance that if you have any questions, the Q&A is open. I think there may be one in the chat. Oh, thanks from Jen. Yeah, she shares that as well. I'll just a comment or a question, if I may, take the co-host's prerogative. So Chairman Strauss at the outset highlighted how important gubernatorial support was to making this happen. And we obviously are very grateful here on the South Coast for the leadership in particular of the Baker-Polito administration. But now as we are on the eve of an election year, and I listened to what you were saying over the course of your remarks, it looks like we're past the point of no return as we look down the road to one way or another person in the corner office on Beacon Hill. Is it safe for us to assume here on the South Coast that we're past the point of no return?
Absolutely. To your point, the Baker Polito administration has been phenomenally supportive, as have you. It takes, all of us to underscore the importance of this link, and the administration is totally in support. And I believe the chairman also mentioned that we have our funding in place. That funding isn't going anywhere. They can't have it. We won't give it away. And there's no way on God's green earth you would come this far and say, oh, never mind.
Well, I think I speak for all in attendance when I say that is really great news, and all of the exciting progress that you're reporting is long awaited, and we're all looking forward to an opportunity to take that ride back and forth to Boston on the South Coast Rail once and for all later in 2023. So please keep up the good work. In the absence of questions, what we're going to try to do with these sorts of events going forward in collaborations with our friends at Bristol is to try to make sure that they're timely, efficient, and get you out of here in time for work. And so I'm not going to try to stretch it. All I'm going to say is thanks to all for being involved. We've recorded this session, and we will be sharing that at some point in the future. And so that if you have friends and colleagues who you think would benefit from access to this information, we're going to make that information broadly available. I want to thank our colleagues from Bristol Community College, our friends from the Mass Department of Transportation for providing us with this important update, and of course, Chairman Bill Strauss for his leadership on these important issues. I wish you all a good day, and I thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.